Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beer and Money. My name is Ryan Burklo, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about rules on inherited IRAs. And the reason that this is a conversation for today, I've had several clients and prospective clients reach out to me around accounts that they've inherited, and they're hearing some rule changes, and they wanted to know what those rules are so they can be tax efficient as well as just efficient with those accounts. So without further ado, let's dive into it today. So in 2020, the rules for inherited IRAs changed. Prior to 2020, the rule was if you had a inherited IRA and you weren't the spouse, you could stretch the withdrawals that you had to take from those accounts over your lifetime. So if you were 45, 50 years old, you inherited an IRA from your parents, and the old rule was you had to take distributions from that IRA based on your lifespan, right? Your actuarially table of the RMD schedule, essentially. The new rule is really to eliminate this stretch provision. The new rule that is created is what they call the 10-year rule. And that is if you're a non-spouse beneficiary of inherited IRA, you likely have to deplete the account within 10 years. For example, again, going back to if you inherited your parents' IRA in 2020, you have to deplete that account by 2030. So for the next 10 years, you need to essentially deplete that account in full. Even if it's a Roth IRA, by the way, while there isn't an RMD required minimum distribution or tax implications around it, you still have to deplete that money as well because, again, the IRS doesn't want that money growing long-term undisturbed, so they want that money into the system. So that's the new 10-year rule that's really going to be hit hard starting this year. Some exceptions to that 10-year rule, just a quick heads up, are for minor children, disabled or chronically ill individuals that are more than 10 years younger than the descendant. And so, like, for instance, if this is you, if those three categories, if that's you, then you can follow the stretch rules that I started this episode with. The example that I just gave around if you're not more than 10 years younger than the decedent, let me just break this down. So if your brother who is age 50 passes away and you are age 45 and you inherit his IRA or Roth IRA, you are considered an eligible designated beneficiary, meaning you don't have to abide by that 10-year rule. However, if it's more than 10 years difference, then you would have to abide by that new 10-year rule. Okay. So those are key ingredients, right? Because as our parents and loved ones are passing away, this money is passing down to us. You have to make sure you are making sure you're taking the distributions as necessary so you don't get hit with penalties. Tax strategy, and that's a big conversation to have. So some things to consider when you inherit specifically a traditional IRA and you're looking over the next 10 years if you're having to distribute that to yourself. The questions you should be considering are, when are you retiring? Right? If you're retiring in the next 10 years, that's something to consider. Are you starting Social Security? Are you expecting a huge income change? Right? Because sometimes if you delay these withdrawals until year 10, for example, this could create a large tax bomb. So you really want to have some sort of strategy around how to distribute this money. Because if you're distributing the money from a traditional IRA that you've inherited, you have to pay the taxes on that money. So if you're making $100,000 of income right now or $400,000 of income, doesn't matter the income, whatever income you're making, if you just had to distribute $10,000 or $20,000 from the inherited IRA that you had, $20,000 on top of that, you're going to pay ordinary income rates on that $20,000. And depending on the tax bracket, you might owe 22, 24, 32% taxes on that distribution. And if you're expecting your income to go up a lot more, say next year, it might make sense to take maybe a larger distribution this year. And retirement, all that kind of fun stuff. So this really incorporates tax insights, tax planning with how to invest that money and how to distribute that money. So that's what I got for today. It's really imperative that you understand these rules, because I'm having quite a few conversations with people that are trying to understand these rules, because they were brought out in 2020, but there was so many, I think, misunderstandings of it, that the IRS was kind of allowing this to take shape, and the rules to really get solidified. Well, now it's solidified, and they're going to be on top of that. So make sure you're aware of that. Hope this episode was valuable for you. Head over to beerandmoney.net, and there's a top of the page there where you can contact us with any questions that you have from today's episode, as well as in the show notes. If you've been listening to our episodes and you're like, hey, I'd love to know where I look financially, would like a scorecard, in the episode show notes, there's a link that you can go in and put some information into, and it'll actually spit out a scorecard for you to see where you're at financially, as well as giving you some information. Just so we're clear, I don't get any of that information. This is a site that I don't get those details. So feel free to go to that. If you feel the next step maybe is to sit down with us, feel free to reach out to us from that standpoint as well. I hope this episode was valuable for you. And as always, cheers.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not to be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Although the information has been gathered from sources believed to be reliable, please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon only when coordinated with individual professional advice. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by Park Avenue Securities, Guardian, or Quantified Financial Partners, and opinions stated are their own. Guardian, its subsidiaries, agents, and employees do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Consult your tax, legal, or accounting professional regarding your individual situation. All investments and investment strategies contain risk and may lose value. This material is intended for general public use. By providing this content, Park Avenue Securities, LLC is not undertaking to provide investment advice or a recommendation for any specific individual or situation, or to otherwise act in a fiduciary capacity. Please contact a financial representative for guidance and information that is specific to your individual situation. Ryan and Alex are registered representatives and financial advisors of Park Avenue Securities, LLC. OSJ 200 Market Street, Suite 1850, Portland, Oregon 97201. Phone number 503-221-1226. Securities products and advisory services offered through Park Avenue Securities, member FINRA, SIPC. Financial representatives of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. Park Avenue Securities is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Quantified Financial Partners is not an affiliate or subsidiary of Park Avenue Securities or Guardian. Ryan Burklo, CA Insurance License Number 0K24924. Alexander Collins, CA Insurance License Number 0H24806.
7574275.1. Expiration date January 2027.